Hi, you guys, and welcome back to another episode of A Tailor-Made Life, where every conversation is one step closer to designing the life that God has for you. I'm your host, Taylor Renee, and as always, I'm so excited to have you back here with me. Let's get right into it, shall we? Last episode, we were discussing the art of letting things go, right? What that means, how to let things go, why you should let them go, all that good stuff. If you want to hear more about that, please go watch last week's episode. This week, though, I was kind of in the limbo, if you will, of thinking some things through, right? And I was sitting on my couch, and I heard God say, it's time for you to accept it, right? It's time for you to accept what it is that I'm calling you to do. Accept where you are. Accept it. And he's been working on me with the idea of acceptance, right? And so I figured I would just, get on here and tell the pod about it. I think acceptance, the idea of it, right? People wrestle with it. They tussle with it. I tussle with it because I've always equated to acceptance to like giving up or being complacent. When in reality, that's not true at all, right? Like acceptance isn't giving up on something, right? What if the thing that you're resisting is the very place that God is using to prepare you? Like, what if this is the season, like we've talked about in the past, that God is using to prepare you for the next one, right? But if you can accept that you're in this season right now, how are you going to get to the next one? Right? And so acceptance isn't about giving up, right? Acceptance isn't about complacency. It's not about being comfortable with where you are right now. Acceptance is literally just faith, right? It's trusting that where God has you right now is right where you need to be. It's exactly where you need to be, precisely, right? I think the more we fight our current season, the harder our life becomes. And so as I sat on my couch, I'm like, man, the more I keep resisting this, the more I go against what's happening and what's showing up, the more I fight the will of God, the will of what's actually happening in my life, the harder things become for me. I understood though in that moment as well, because I had a wrestle, I had a tussle, right? Because I knew why acceptance was so hard for me. And I think it comes from living in a constant stimulation, like culture, society. Like nowadays we're so used to having an exciting life every single day of the week, every single day of the year is like excitement, this, that, thrill. Like we're being overstimulated, whether it's by social media or by people's highlights reel that we see on Instagram, or just living in a world that is wants excitement all the time, where there's always some drama or some thriller happening, right? And it can make our lives, our everyday lives, mundane. It makes it feel insignificant, when in reality, 75% of our lives is lived in the ordinary. Like 75% of your life is found in those small tasks, in those small things you've been trusted to do, right? The everyday routines, the quiet work, the responsibilities that no one sees. Like that's where your life is really spent most of the time. Everything else is like the cherry on top, right? And the mundane is where much of our growth takes place. It's through those small things that we're constantly working on ourselves, where God is constantly working on your heart and your patience and your posture, and like all of the things that you don't even realize that you need for the next season is found in the small everyday tasks that we're doing today, that you're doing this week. Washing the dishes, keeping your house clean, managing your children, keeping up with your family, maintaining work. Like those small things that we just brush off as nothing is where the work is actually being done. I had to come into in alignment with that. I had to realize that this past week. And most importantly, acceptance really is an act of faith. Acceptance, when I think about acceptance, I think about letting my guard down, right? I think about putting away my ideas and my thoughts, allowing things to come into my life as they will. And that within itself is an act of faith, because I'm having to trust that what God has for me is greater than what I'm experiencing right now. And whether that comes tomorrow or 3 years from now, I have to be okay with accepting what it is that is happening right now. It means trusting him even when I don't know all the details. I don't know everything that comes with what he's entrusted me with. When I see a vision or I see something that could come to pass, but I don't know all the details that come with it. I don't know what that means for this part of my life, or what that means for, my family, it's trusting him with all of that, right? Acceptance is an act of trusting him. And the peace comes when you stop fighting with what God is actually allowing. Now, I could relate this to work, which in some aspects it does relate, right? You can relate it over to your work, but I'm speaking when we're talking about the random things, the major decisions that we have to make in our lives, right? That sometimes affect our work, but other times just affect us as humans, right? Peace is found when you stop fighting the very thing that is constantly coming up in your life. Accept it, right? Accept it, whether it's the good thing, the boring thing, or the bad thing. Accepting of the things that don't make you excited. Accepting of the things that could cause disruption in your life, right? Accepting that as well, because again, you find peace when you know that, first, that you're not fighting it alone. Secondly, when it was placed here, when God has placed it here, this is your next step. And so if this is what the next step is, this the hurdle that you have to get over, then so be it. Get over it, right? But the more you fight against it, then the harder time you're going to have. But I don't want to get the message confused, because, again, acceptance isn't complacency. Accepting in this season of your life doesn't mean that you're settling for less. It doesn't mean that you're abandoning your dreams, right? It doesn't mean that you've put everything, your wants, all of your wants and desires by the wayside. That's not it, right? It just means pursuing your goals while finding contentment today, right? You're finding contentment within your small tasks, the everyday things, right? Your today and your tomorrow. Finding contentment and joy and what those things have for you, right, is acceptance. Not with the idea that you're going to stay here forever, right? We all naturally want progression and growth, right? But how are you going to get there when you're not using the using the tasks that is put before you today? The small things that you've been called to steward today. If you can't steward the little, then you're not going to be trusted to steward the more. If you can't steward the little, then you're not going to be trusted to steward the growth. Does that make sense? For example, I have a friend who's pursuing nursing right now, and she battles between finding the joy within what she's doing, right? And obviously the goal is to eventually become the nurse, right? But the thing is that God wants you to experience joy in the process, right? And not only after you get the nursing degree, right? It's the everyday things. Enjoy studying, right? Enjoying the camaraderie between your classmates, enjoying the hard times, the tests, joy. Finding joy within that doesn't come after you've achieved the goal. It comes during the process of the goal. It comes during the everyday tasks, the random tests that you have on Tuesday, being excited to learn about something new, being excited to be able to change lives and help people, right? That's where the joy comes. It comes from the everyday things, not just once you reach the other side, right? Joy is available in the journey, right? Not just at the destination. Another thing too, why those small responsibilities are important, and I mentioned it before, but the idea of stewardship, it's like crawling before you walk and walking before you run, right? Like God cares about how we handle our everyday responsibilities, right? The small assignments are preparation for the larger opportunities, right? So whether that be, a classroom full of 10 students, right? Or a pet, or, an entry level job, or for myself having, 80 subscribers and 20 listeners, right? Like even in the midst of those small things, those small numbers, those everyday tasks, God is looking to see how we handle those, right? He cares about our stewardship over the small things. And once he can see how we handle the small things, then he will trust us with more. Same thing with your money, same thing with your budgeting, right? Let's see how you handle $200 versus handling $2,000. How you handle that $200 is going to, it tells how you're going to handle the 2,000, right? How you handle the small things reveals your readiness for bigger things, right? And so, for example, like I was coming out of college, and I've told this story so many times, but I was coming out of college, and it was during my waiting season, my waiting time of my life, and I had to work at a shoe store, like a boutique, like a clothing store, shoe boutique type of situation. And it was really cool. Like the job itself was like hip and fun, and like I was in the city, so like I would be, around like, the stars and the celebrities, and I had like coworkers who were like my age and whatnot. So it was a fun environment, right? But I felt so discouraged, and I was at a point in my life where I couldn't believe that God had just told me no, right? I couldn't even believe that I was in a waiting season at all. So all of that stuff, I couldn't even recognize, right? I couldn't accept, I couldn't come into agreement with where I was in my life because I thought God had made a mistake, right? I thought that God had did something wrong, like there was something missing in this puzzle. I couldn't, like he must have placed me in the wrong, like he placed me in the wrong place. Like it had gotten to a point where I would go to the bathroom, like I would take my breaks and whatnot, I would go to the bathroom and cry. I would cry, I would pray, I would be so upset, just so confused as to why I was here, and I'm already dramatic. So that, like, just the idea of me not getting my dream, or me chasing this dream and not getting it, made me distraught, right? Now, fast forward, I'm realizing that I didn't want to accept it because I thought accepting that place in my life meant I was accepting failure, right? I thought it meant that I would never make it to where I wanted to be. I thought accepting that point in my life meant that I would just be working there forever. Like this isn't what I asked for. So, at that time I didn't realize that was a part of something I had to accept. That was a season that was meant for me to accept it, right? It was a season where God was working on so many other things in my life, my heart posture and my patience and my all of the things that he was working on me, all the small, minute things that he was working with me through that place, through that season. I didn't realize that, so it was hard for me to accept it. It took weeks for me to finally come into agreement, come into alignment with, okay, God, this is where you have me. There must be a reason. It took forever for me to come to that conclusion because I didn't want to accept failure. I didn't want to accept that. I didn't want to accept all of my work leading up to just one little thing, right? But again, acceptance is an act of faith. Acceptance is not just laying my dreams by the wayside, but finding the lessons in the everyday tasks, right? Because again, life isn't only about reaching your goals, right? It's the valleys and the setbacks and the small ordinary things that life is found within. Those are the moments that shape us. Those are the things that create who we are when the lights do turn on, right? So these seasons, they build character and resilience and gratitude and better heart posture and faith, right? Like, we can't live life without those things. I mean, we can live life, but you won't live a very good one, right? So it's like acceptance is picking up your cross, throwing away your will, what you have, what you thought you had for your life, and accepting what's actually being presented to you. Because that process is where much of life's meaning is found. That's where we become who we are, right? And it won't happen unless you accept what it is that keeps showing up, right? So yeah, that's the meat of the message, right? Acceptance is more important than what we give it credit for. Because sometimes we don't want to accept the small, we don't want to accept the boring or the bad or the disruptions, but in reality, man, that's where most of life is found. And those are the seasons that are meant to build us, meant to shape us into who we are today. So yeah, I'd ask, like, what season are you resisting right now? I was resisting some things, right? But as of now, I'm coming into acceptance with the small things and being okay with what I'm learning today and tomorrow. So yeah, that's kind of all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed. Yeah, till next time. Bye.